Hey guys, today's actually going to be a bit of a different video because a lot is changing in my life, a lot is happening. I recently got a new job, which means that I will be leaving my current one. It's a very bittersweet moment, and I've been reflecting on my past life, and I realized how long I've been in the job industry, work industry. I'm 23 and I've had 8 different jobs in my life so far, going on my 9th soon. And these were all from barista to team member, cashier, pottery painter assistant, social media executive, which is where I'm at now. But a lot of these were not like career choices. They were jobs that I did part-time while studying. But still, I went through so many interview stages. I met so many different kinds of people. I had very different responsibilities in my day-to-day. So I feel like I've gained enough experience to be able to share some key tips that really helps me get jobs, keep jobs, and enjoy jobs. Okay, so before getting into this video, I kind of want to go through the interview phase just a little bit because that is how you actually get the job. And my number one tip is do something unique. Think outside of the box. This is especially relevant if you are given a task. This is more like for creative roles, but whoever's watching this, you can still, I think, relate it to, the kind of answers that you give to certain questions. Try to suggest something different, unique, but appropriate, of course, than the rest. Doing something that other people don't think about is actually easier than you think. Thinking outside the box can look like investing in something that you use for a video that other people wouldn't have, but make it relevant to the brand that you're applying for. Number two, competency-based questions. And these are things that you just cannot avoid. They're going to be asked. The best way to prepare for these is to research the company's or the brand's values. So a lot of time it's like 3 to 5 values. For example, curiosity or thinking different or innovators or leadership, things like this that you can pre-plan scenarios where you in your personal life, in your work life, have showcased such values yourself and what you learned from it, exactly how it happened. And that fear of using up a scenario for one value and then they ask you about another and that scenario was actually the perfect one to use for that. Well, one, you can reuse it, but just highlight a different value in that same situation. If you don't have much experience, they'll understand. Or two, before the interview, think of as many scenarios. Try to think of at least 2 situations, 2 examples where you showed one value. In case you forget one or in case you use one for another thing, you have that other one for backup. And honestly, my biggest advice is try to give as different, as unique of answers as possible. So say the company you're interviewing with asked you how you showed curiosity at your previous jobs or something like this. There are stereotypical answers out there, I'm not going to lie. For example, I asked questions when I was unsure about something, and that is more than okay as long as you go into it, you show your deeper thinking side. But giving very, very specific answers, to be honest, is what will make you stand out, unless the job itself that you did is very unique and therefore will by nature be interesting to listen to. But the more unique ways that you can talk, the more unique examples that you can bring up will make you stand out as a candidate and will make you more memorable when they consider you for the role. Number 3, you can give the most perfect, incredible, flawless answers, but if you don't vibe, if you don't mesh, if you don't click with the people interviewing you, because these are the people that are looking for someone to work closely with, forget about it. You can prepare so well, but if you can't show that you are comfortable in the interview, if you can't show that you can have a good time, make a joke here and there, or show your playful, banterous side, with limited amounts, obviously depending on what you're applying for, just remember that people hire people. So if you can't show that you have a lighthearted, playful, social side, and you look like this super serious, formal, boring individual that they are considering to hire, how are you going to compare to the other candidate that is so much more funny, playful, lighthearted than you? Of course, it's really difficult when you are stressed out in an interview situation. I totally get that. And I think that for me personally, the more interviews I went through in my life, the easier it got and the more relaxed I became. I just mainly focused on preparing my answers. And once I was confident in what I'm going to say for each competency-based question, I could then focus on showcasing my personality a bit. This way, you actually buy yourself time to understand if you want this role, if you want to work with these people, especially if you're choosing between multiple jobs. So anyway, my biggest recommendation is prepare as much as you can with what you're going to say to leave the personality to flow in the interview. And if you get anxious, if you get stressed, number 1, do not drink coffee before your interview, drink after. And number 2, they're just people at the end of the day. They're just people that need an employee. Number 4, at the end of the interview when they ask, do you have any questions for us? Number 1, always have a question prepared. show that curious value that you have. It just shows that you're interested in the role, you're curious about them. And my second and bigger piece of advice is to try and always focus it on the positive. I think in terms of questions, if you were to avoid any question, I would recommend avoiding the salary one. Like, what is the salary, especially if you're on the first stage interview only. It's just unnecessary, you know, and if you do as well as the other person, but they didn't ask about salary because they were more interested in like their day-to-day responsibilities and just finding more about the role, they're going to look a little better, at least in my opinion. The 2 previous jobs that I actually got that I really wanted, I never asked about salary until I got the offer, and I was happy both times. Anyways, I can go into much more detail on interviews if that's what you guys want, but for the rest of this video, let's focus on my top tips in your 9 to 5 from all the 9 to 5s that I've had. So throughout my part-time, full-time freelance roles, I've been a barista, I've been a cashier, I've been a gallery intern, I've been a clothing brand founder, tried out that route, didn't end up really working out. I've been a graphic designer, I've been a social media executive, as I mentioned, and I just want to say that once you get your first job, it's a snowball effect from there in a very good way. You get way more talking points in the interview phase, you get way more interesting, unique talking points because you've had, you know, different experiences to other people, and your previous experience can have absolutely nothing to do with the job that you're applying for, but it is your responsibility to tie your learnings closely to the job that you're applying for. It is your job to make it relevant to what you're applying for. So if you're struggling to find work, I just want to calm you down by saying once you get that first one, just know it's going to be 10 times easier finding the next in the future. So my first tip and my most favorite tip to give, and also the biggest learning curve that I myself had to go through, which is probably why it is my favorite tip, is separating your ego from your work. Whatever field you work in, if you're a data analyst, if you're a strategist, if you are a graphic designer, you're gonna be creating results and work that you are semi-proud of if it goes well, or really disappointed in yourself and if it doesn't. And this emotions that you feel, whether good or bad, is not great, because if you are really affected by the praise of your work, you're going to be affected by the disappointment to your work. And this effect is not a good thing because it will either slow you down or it will distract you. So the most important thing that I can advise people is to try and separate ego from the end result, because when you receive criticism, you need to take it very objectively. You need to take it constructively, because this is not you that is being criticized. This is the end result, which is actually a collaborative result, right? It's not just you, it is also the company that has provided you with the resources to make it. It's not just you. And this actually should bring you peace, because again, it's a collaborative effort. It is not just on you if it didn't work out, and it is not just on you if it did work out. Your ego is the biggest block, the biggest barrier to your learning, to your improvement, and to your success, because your ego makes you defensive, it makes you ignorant when you receive feedback that you don't necessarily agree with, and that really slows you down, because instead of focusing on how to improve it based on the feedback, you focus on how to persuade that it is good. And let me tell you, when you work for someone, when you're providing a service to a client, that is a waste of time and that is unprofessional. If whoever approves your work usually is not happy with it, it is not that they are not happy with you. And it's very crucial to learn the difference if you want to climb the ladder, if you want to succeed, if you want to become more professional in what you do. Number 2, work anxiety is a real thing and it is normal. And no, you're not the only person going through it if you already have a job. Like the first 3 months, the probation period, as we love to call it, you're going to think you're going to get fired over every little mistake that you do. And it is completely normal, as in not the mistakes that you do necessarily, which are actually also normal. Let me just tell you that, but it is normal to feel this way. You're not alone. I've had so much work anxiety working for multiple past jobs that I've had, and it is not fun. But I think just the piece of knowing that you are not alone in this, that is a real thing. Even if you just go on TikTok and search up work anxiety, like all the videos there are so calming. I feel like there's not much you can do about it except for 1, knowing that there's others that feel this way. It's a very universal feeling. And 2, just know that it gets better with time. Just know that it gets better as you get to know your colleagues more, as you start feeling more confident over your day-to-day responsibilities and start getting better at them. Over time, your work anxiety does diminish, unless your work environment is completely toxic, which then is a, sign to find another one. And so rather than focusing on the mistake and, how horrible it was and how bad you feel about it, try learn what made you make this mistake, how you can improve it next time, and show this change over time. If that's your mindset, then you have nothing to worry about. Number 3 is slightly relevant to, work anxiety, because if there's actual reasons that aren't very normal what make you anxious, for example, how you're being treated, It's important to set your boundaries, but instead of just setting boundaries, it's also important to set your boundaries in good time earlier on. Same way in relationships and friendships, if you've been allowing someone to treat you badly for 6 months, how do you expect them to react when you all of a sudden say enough is enough? Of course, there's going to be conflict, even if you're in the right, because they're shocked, first of all. If you want to avoid this conflict, avoid this tension, and you're unhappy with something, say it when you're unhappy with it, say it when it started, say it when it's come to your mind. Don't let it build up and up and up and up, because afterwards it's awkward and you probably won't even feel like bringing it up because you yourself feel like it's been way too long and you're just going to be miserable and unhappy in your workplace. So in order to look out for your future self, do the things you need to do in the present. Number 4 is, I guess, a hack tip slash how to increase your chances of actually getting a job, a part-time job, a full-time job, is weekend work. There is such a shortage of staff over the weekend because no one wants to give up their weekend, because weekend is a universal relaxing time where you see most of your friends who don't work on the weekend. But if you can offer to work on the weekend, you are going to increase your chances by 1,000,000%. Let me tell you that. And I guess this is more relevant to more like retail jobs, cafe jobs over corporate, because corporate doesn't anyway offer this. But if you can / are willing to sacrifice your weekend, you're going to be instantly considered. For example, when I worked at Pret as a barista, I just walked in without a CV even, okay? This is how desperate they were for weekend staff. And I said, hey, do you have any job vacancies available? They're like, can you work weekend? I'm like, yes. And they said, okay, start tomorrow. And start tomorrow is what I did. I came the next day and I was being trained as a barista because I had zero experience. They asked me, but they didn't even bat an eyelid, because I said I can work weekend. And it worked out for the best. I got the experience, I got the skill, I got the money. If you are willing to sacrifice your weekends because you are so desperate for a salary, for a job, try that out. Number 5, if you want to predict approximately how long you will last in a role, let me tell you something. It is not about how difficult the tasks are necessarily. It is massively dependent on the people that you are surrounded by, the people that are working with you. Because if you do not like the people, you will not like the job. The people are literally everything, is what I realized. Many jobs I've quit because of the people, and many jobs I've stayed for as long as I did because of the people. Because the day-to-day responsibilities, even if you don't necessarily love them, for instance, you do get used to it over time. But a toxic work environment caused by unkind people, that is the reason a lot of people leave. So during the interview phase, or when you get the offer, I would try focus more on which people I got along with most, particularly if the salary difference is not so high. Because wouldn't you rather work with the people, the kinder people that are more willing to invest in you throughout time, are more willing to train you and reward you for your progress and therefore promote you, over the unkind, more cold people that don't do any of those things? And therefore, over time, where do you think you're going to make more money? The people that invest and train in you because they believe in you, they want to create a healthy work environment for you to thrive in, or the people that maybe offered you a 2K plus, difference salary, but don't want you to grow. Number 6, you can have reasonable skill, but it is what else you bring to the table that really matters. I believe what got me most of my jobs in the creative department was my concept over skill. What got me most of my strategic jobs was my way of thinking over skill. And what got me most of my simpler team member jobs was my positivity and willingness to learn over skill. My skill wasn't 0, it was reasonable, but it is your personality, I guess, at the end of the day, or your characteristic or your traits and your philosophy is what makes the difference. It's also my ability to be able to reflect on my past experiences and explain why I did what I did in a deeper sense. I hate going for the stereotypical answer. I always am trying to think of a more unique way of thinking when I explain something, or give a very, very unique example of how I showcased X value. I guess just to give an example, because I'm feeling nice today. No, I'm kidding. But I've had a lot of basic, simple jobs like a barista. And what deep kind of analysis can you give on how you showed this, how you showed empathy? Of course, you can show empathy by being kind to your customers and all of this kind of things, but if you look at it more deeply, what are the things that you observed over your time working there? For example, my understanding and my observation of how remembering a customer's name or remembering a regular customer's order can make a whole difference to their experience at the the coffee shop. Being able to think a little bit more deeply with your scenarios and your responses is what will end up getting you the job, because you think different. And it is easier than you think to relate it to a completely different job that you might be applying to. For example, I related to my social media job. You know, you constantly engage with the community and interact with an audience when you post videos, when you are in the comment section, and it's like understanding the intimacy and the special experience that you can bring to each individual out there. This kind of skill that you learn at a barista role is also extremely relevant in that sense. So it's really just the way you think about things. Number 7, if your job doesn't invest in you, you should at least invest in you. And I don't mean this by going shopping and buying some clothes, even though we are all victims? No, not victims. We are all shamed. No, whatever. You get what I'm saying. I don't mean to go and buy materialistic things that are liabilities, guys. Assets are things that will bring you value over time, like buying a house because you can rent it out to people. Buying liabilities is what will lose you money. Now, that is not to say that you should not buy yourself clothes, because that is not necessarily what I don't do. Try to decipher that one. All I'm trying to say is use your 9-to-5 salary, whatever leftovers you have after rent, utilities, groceries, all that kind of stuff, to then go and take up a course, take up a class where you can learn a new skill, either a skill that can just give you a new hobby, or classes/courses for a new skill that is part of a career that you actually want to go in eventually, or can help you achieve a new position that you've been wanting. So just be aware of where your money goes, and if it's not going into anywhere that will allow you to grow as an individual, then just reflect on this. And number 8, last but not least, while on the topic of investments, I would say invest time in your colleagues. Definitely attend those work socials and go for an after work drink with someone. I feel like if you just think your 9 to 5 is 9 to 5 and after it's like 5:01 you're heading home because spending another minute with this person is basically work, I don't think that's gonna help you in the long run, especially if this is a place that you want to stay for a long term, because it's how I said, the people is what make you thrive. If you're not willing to invest some time getting to know the people that you work with for 8 hours of the day, it's like, how do you expect to actually enjoy working with these people? How do you actually expect to enjoy your work? Especially if the nature of your job is very collaborative, you need to be able to like and get to know the people that you work with. And I feel like if you don't have a great relationship with the people that you work with, it's probably that you haven't spent enough time getting to know them. And it's hard to get to know someone in a work environment. So if you are willing to improve your colleague relationships, then definitely offer to get to know them in a different setting. And it creates a more wholesome feeling in the office when people just get along, people know each other, people can make banter, like inside jokes with each other. And last important point that I want to make under this tip is, unfortunately, it is true that you are more likely to get hired, promoted, rewarded if you are liked as an individual over if you are the best performer at your job, particularly in corporate. And I've just heard way too many stories relating to this, of people experiencing this, to not mention it. I really hope these tips were helpful to at least one person. Do let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed this, if you want more, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!